Yes, this is John G. Sutton. Welcome to Tales from the Jails. And today, by special request, I'm going to talk a little bit about the people who were hung at Strangeways Jail. See, Strangeways Jail was used from 1879 to 1963 as a place of execution. I've previously discussed that the gallows were at the end of B wing, and that exactly 100 people were hung by the neck until they were dead by hangmen such as James Ellis, whose ghost still walks the wings of Strangeways, and Albert Pierrepoint, who was probably the best known executioner. He ran a public house, I believe it was at Whitefield. It was called the Poor Struggler. And strangely enough, my father knew Albert Pierrepoint because my dad was a CID officer in Prestwich at the time, which is next door to Whitefield. Anyway, as I said, this is by special request. A certain very famous man called Ronnie Pickering. Yes, folks, that Ronnie Pickering wanted to know what happened to the bodies once they'd hung them. So, although it's slightly morbid, somewhat macabre, and extremely depressing, let me tell you what happened to the bodies. You see, I was on duty during 1979 when they were doing a series of refurbishments of the prison, and they were refurbishing, as part of that, the tower. Now, the tower at Strangeways, which you will have probably seen if you look at any standard photograph of Strangeways Jail, it shows the big Victorian pseudo-Gothic jail front, the towers, and it shows a major tower standing over the jail, That is a ventilation tower. It's used, all the cells are like honeycombed with a system that allows the air from the jail to be changed. It's drawn out through the tower, which stands at about 150, 200 feet, and it's blown into the atmosphere of Greater Manchester, and all the air is replaced in the jail, so they don't have stale air in the jail. And they were refurbishing the tower, and I was put as the officer in charge of the security for that time because they had outside contractors coming in to do this. It wasn't done by the prison works department. So I went in and I was not working with, I was actually supervising the security of the builders who were refurbishing the tower, and I got access to the tower. Now, inside the tower, there is a spiral staircase that goes to the top, obviously, and it's absolutely terrifying. The staircase originally at the start has got handrail, and it's got like stone steps built into the side of the actual structure of the tower. So when you look at the tower, inside it there is a circular staircase going up, and it's got, as I say, a handrail and stone steps. They're about 2 foot wide when you start off. So you start off reasonably confidently. I mean, I was a young man in 1979, 42 years ago, and start going up the interior of the ladder. And after you get about, I would say, probably about 40 or 50 steps up, the actual steps themselves are no longer 2 foot wide. They're about 18 inches. Seriously. And the handrail disappears. There is no handrail after about 50 steps up. Now, you don't know this at the start, So you're halfway up. How are you going to get down? So you keep going. Well, I did anyway. And the way to keep going, the way I did, I was press my back right against the edge of the tower and continued up to the top. And when you get up the top, you know, it's you look at the turret thing at the top, and you think, oh, it's not that big. Believe me, it's about 8 foot high. That thing at the top. So when you're standing at it, you're actually looking through the grills. At the time, it's 1979. I didn't have a camera. I wish I did. It's quite a spectacular view. Oh, it was then. I mean, if you go to Manchester now, I mean, it's starting to look like a suburb of New York, isn't it? With all these towering buildings. But at the time, the Strangeways Tower was something of a landmark, and it stood out. It was one of the highest buildings or the highest construction points in that side of Manchester, going back nearly 50 years, of course. And they were refurbishing the tower, repointing it, and they put at the top a lightning conductor. They had an original lightning conductor, but that was starting to rust, and so they took it all down. And at the top of the lightning conductor was a metal, a cast iron ball that was used to conduct the lightning that may have hit Strangeways. And I spoke to the manager in charge of the operations and said, look, because they just threw it all in a big pile at the bottom of the tower, smashing it up and putting it into a big skip. And I saw this lightning conductor. I said, listen, is it any good to you? Is it any use, or can I have it? You know. Yes, folks. Here it is. As you can see, yeah. That is the lightning conductor from the top of the tower at Strangeways Jail, and it was originally placed there when they built the prison over 100 years ago. And it was given to me by the scrap metal guy who was in charge of the project. So it's legitimately, I've not stolen it, that's been given to me. Now, not only were they refurbishing the tower, they were also refurbishing the area around the office blocks, which was just past the BAC unit, the YP unit at Strangeways, and they started to dig and build an extension to the office block. And as they dug down, they hit a series of burial sites for the victims of the hangman's noose. That's rather a dramatic way of expressing it, I know, but that's where they were buried, right at the edge of the wall, at the edge of the outer wall, because it was deemed at the time that people who had committed such offences and were hung by the state were not to be buried in consecrated ground, so they were buried at the side of the wall. So if you look at Strangeways, there's a wall going round it. The top on Southall Street, if you go right up Southall Street, follow the wall round, and immediately behind the top end of the wall, that is where the burial ground was for the victims of the hangman. And as they were refurbishing the office and building an extension, they uncovered a number of these bodies, and the bodies were taken from the prison and reinterred at I think it was a cemetery at Harper Hay. They were cremated and buried there. It's a sad state of affairs, and I'd say at that time, it was around about that time that I saw the ghost of Mrs. Merrifield. She was the Blackpool poisoner, and it was round about that time that I saw her ghost. So maybe, I don't know, they didn't say who they'd disturbed their graves, but it could possibly have been that her grave was disturbed. I believe also that in the late 80s there was further development done. They uncovered more bodies, and these were also disinterred and taken to the cemetery at Harper Hay and interred there. And they were able to identify the bodies. I mean, people like Buck Ruxton, who was a a medical practitioner in, I believe it was in Rotherham, and he murdered a couple of people, and various other victims of the noose. You can read all about it. There's a book out there. It's called Strange Tale from Strangeways by Sarah Lee, SARALEE, Sarah Lee. But my experiences are my experiences, and that's where the bodies are interred, right at the top of inside the walls of Strangeways, in unconsecrated ground. They may have buried the bodies, but the spirits are still there. I know. I have encountered them. And friends, this story is true. You see, I was that jailer.